welcome back to Whispers of Wisdom. I'm Carrie Bandel, owner of Sacred Whispers Studio. Can you believe I'm on my 29th episode? I had no idea when I started this that this old broad could figure all of this out. Anyway, I'm kind of proud of myself, but as we're listening to this, we're in the heart of autumn, approaching Samhain, and I can feel it. That subtle shift in the energy, that thinning of the veil between worlds. Can you feel it too? That sense that something mysterious is stirring, that the ordinary rules of reality are becoming a little more flexible. Here's something I want you to consider. Right now, as you're listening to my voice, your great great grandmother might be trying to get your attention. Your grandfather, who passed when you were small, might be attempting to send you guidance about a decision you're struggling with. The ancestors you never met might be reaching across the divide to offer you wisdom, protection, and love. Sound impossible? Today we're going to explore why it's not only possible, but probable, and how you can open sacred dialogue with your lineage that can enrich your life in ways you never imagined. We're talking about ancestor veneration, not ancestor worship, but conscious relationship with those who came before us. This is one of the most universal human practices across cultures and throughout history. And there's a reason for that. The connection between the living and the dead is real, powerful, and available to all of us. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and let's explore how to connect with your invisible support team. Let's start with something that might surprise you. There's actually scientific basis for why certain times of the year facilitate spirit communication more than others. During autumn, particularly around Samhain, several factors create optimal conditions for what we might call expanded awareness or psychic sensitivity. First, the electromagnetic field changes during seasonal transitions. The Earth's magnetic field fluctuates as we move from one season to another, and these fluctuations can affect human consciousness. Some researchers suggest that electromagnetic changes can influence the pineal gland, which produces melatonin and is associated with psychic experience across cultures. Second, the decreased daylight affects our brain chemistry. As daylight hours shorten, our pineal glands produce more melatonin, which not only regulates sleep, but can induce altered states of consciousness. Many indigenous cultures have long recognized that the dream time becomes more accessible during winter months. Third, there are geological factors that enhance spiritual activity. Areas with underground water sources, certain mineral deposits, or intersection of what some call ley lines seem to be more conducive to spirit communication. Many ancient sacred sites were built on these locations, and they often report increased paranormal activity during seasonal transitions. From a quantum physics perspective, consciousness itself might not be confined to physical brains. Some physicists theorize that consciousness could exist as quantum information that persists beyond physical death. While this is still theoretical, it provides a scientific framework for understanding how ancestor communication might be possible. But you don't need to understand the science to experience the phenomenon. What matters is that cultures worldwide have recognized that certain times, particularly autumn and winter, create natural conditions for connecting with those who've crossed over. Our ancestors chose this season for contact because you're biologically and energetically more receptive. They're not just around right now, they're actively reaching out. Now, let's talk about what ancestor work actually is, because there are some important distinctions to make. Ancestor veneration is not about ancestor worship. We're not praying to our ancestors as gods or pretending they were perfect people. We're recognizing that death is a transition, not an ending, and that our departed loved ones continue to exist in some form and can offer guidance, protection, and support. Your ancestors carry both experiences and wisdom. They lived through challenges, celebrated victories, navigated love and loss, and developed insights that span lifetimes. When we connect with them, we're accessing the wisdom they gained through their full life experiences, including their triumphs and their learning moments. Ancestor work is ultimately about connection, bridging the gap between the living and the dead that modern Western culture has created. When we cut ourselves off from our lineage, we lose access to generations of accumulated wisdom, strength, and love. Your ancestors want to see you thrive and succeed. They're not distant observers, they're your biggest cheerleaders, celebrating every breakthrough you achieve and every joy you experience. They understand your journey in ways that living people might not, because they've walked the path of human experience and now see from an expanded perspective. Here's something beautiful. When you develop a relationship with your ancestors, you often discover strengths and talents that seem to come from nowhere, but actually flow through your lineage. That artistic ability, the intuitive knowing, that particular way you handle challenges, these gifts often have deep ancestral roots. Let's explore how different cultures approach ancestor veneration, because this is truly universal human wisdom, and these traditions offer us beautiful examples of how to honor our lineage. In Mexican tradition, Dia de los Muertos creates an annual celebration where families prepare elaborate altars called ofrendas, decorated with marigolds, candles, and photos of the deceased loved ones. They cook the favorite foods of those who've passed, play their favorite music, and visit grave sites to commune with the dead. Death is seen not as an ending, but as a continuation of relationship. Families share stories, memories, and updates on their lives as if the loved ones are still present, because they believe they are. African traditions, particularly in West African spirituality, emphasize that ancestors are actively involved in the lives of their descendants. The concept of Sankofa, represented by a bird looking backward while moving forward, teaches that we must understand our past to move wisely into our future. Ancestors are consulted for major decisions, thanked for blessings, and honored through spiritual and daily acknowledgement. How lovely is that? Many Asian cultures practice elaborate forms of ancestor veneration, maintaining shrines for ancestors and regularly offering food, incense, and prayers. In Chinese culture, the Qingming festival is dedicated to cleaning ancestral graves and making offerings. The understanding is that honoring ancestors brings blessings to the family and helps maintain the connection between generations. Indigenous cultures worldwide recognize that we're connected not just to our immediate ancestors, but to 7 generations in each direction, past and future. The wisdom of the ancestors is sought through ceremony, dream work, and connection with the land they once walked. Many indigenous traditions understand that the ancestors live on the wind, the waters, the animals, and the sacred places they once knew. In Celtic tradition, Samhain marks the time when the veil between worlds is thinnest. It's a time for honoring the deceased, for divination, and for connecting with the wisdom of those who've passed. The Celtic understanding of the other world suggests that the dead are not gone, but simply exist in a parallel realm that occasionally touches our own. What all of these traditions understand is that individual identity is inseparable from lineage identity. You're not just yourself. You're the continuation of an unbroken chain of humans who survived, loved, struggled, and triumphed long enough to create you. Even if you don't know your genealogy, even if you were adopted, even if you have complicated relationships with your family of origin, you can connect with ancestral wisdom. Your DNA carries their memories, experiences, and spiritual knowledge. The connection exists whether you're conscious of it or not. Let's get practical. How do you actually communicate with ancestors? I know this might feel intimidating at first, but remember, this is one of humanity's oldest practices, and it's more accessible than you might think. How many of you have photos of ancestors from the past? You wish you knew who they were, but it's lost forever. I know I have several of them. You can use them to create a dedicated ancestor space. This doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be a small table, a shelf, or even a designated box that you open for ancestor work. Include photos of the deceased loved ones if you have them, objects that belong to them, items from their homeland or culture, fresh flowers, water, and candles. Water is particularly important because it's considered a conduit between worlds in many traditions. Change it regularly as an offering and a symbol of ongoing relationship. Some people use spring water, others use water that they collected during a full moon, but tap water works perfectly fine if offered with intention. Start simple. Talk to them like they're still here because energetically they are. Share what's happening in your life. Ask for guidance. Express gratitude for what they gave you. Tell them about family news they would have wanted to know. You might feel silly at first, but persistence creates connection. Pay attention to the signs and synchronicities after you've reached out. Ancestor communication often comes through dreams, particularly vivid dreams featuring deceased loved ones or dreams that feel like visitations rather than projections of your subconscious. These dreams often have a different quality, more vivid, more emotionally charged, and they tend to stick with you long after waking. It might also come through sudden memories. When thoughts of a departed loved one comes out of nowhere, often accompanied by their advice or perspective on your current situation. You might suddenly remember something they used to say that's perfectly relevant to what you're going through. Could be synchronicities, meaningful coincidences, finding objects that belong to them, hearing their favorite song at significant moments, seeing symbols or animals associated with them repeatedly. If your grandmother loved cardinals and you start seeing them everywhere after asking for her guidance, pay attention. Physical sensations, feeling their presence. Catching their scent when there's no logical source, feeling touched or hugged when no one's there, sudden temperature changes, or that feeling of someone standing behind you when no one is. Intuitive knowing, receiving information or insights that feel like they're coming from outside your normal thought patterns. This might feel like their voice in your head or sudden clarity about a decision you've been struggling with. Here's a powerful practice. Before sleep, ask a specific ancestor for guidance on a particular challenge. Keep a notebook by your bed. Often they communicate through dreams or through insights that arrive upon waking. You might wake up with clarity you didn't have before, or with a dream that provides symbolic guidance. Automatic writing is another effective technique. Ask a question and put pen to paper. Let whatever wants to come through flow onto the page without editing. Don't worry about whether it's really them or your imagination. The guidance is often valuable regardless of its source. And with practice, you'll begin to recognize the difference between your own thoughts and ancestral communication. Use genealogy research as spiritual practice. Every name you uncover, every story you discover, strengthens your ancestral connection. Your family history is your spiritual map, revealing not just facts, but the essence of who came before you. Even looking at old photographs and really studying the faces of your ancestors can create connection. When I was in New Orleans, I visited a local cemetery. Of course, I had to. I couldn't leave without going there. They had the raised monuments and the sculptures, but one grave in particular drew me in. It had offerings all over it, including fresh fried chicken legs. Someone was recently honoring their loved one. So don't overlook food. Cook dishes they loved, set a place for them at family gatherings, or simply share a cup of coffee or tea with them in the morning. Food is one of the most ancient forms of offering across all cultures. As we close our exploration of ancestor veneration and the thin veil, I want to leave you with this truth. You are not alone. You carry within your very selves the memories, the wisdom, and the love of countless generations who came before you. Every challenge you face, they have faced in some form. Every joy you experience, they celebrate with you. Every step forward you take honors their struggles and their dreams. Our ancestors are a testament to the Bible verse, "There is nothing new under the sun. Everything has happened before, and it will happen again." The veil between worlds is indeed thin right now, and your ancestors are reaching out. They're not asking for worship or perfection, they're offering relationship, guidance, and the kind of love that transcends death itself. Start simply. Light a candle tonight and speak their names if you know them. If you don't know their names, just say, "To those who came before me," and trust that the message will reach them. They thank them for their sacrifices, their love, and their part in creating you. Ask for their guidance and protection as you navigate your path. Remember, ancestor work is not about living in the past. It's about drawing strength from your roots so that you can grow more fully into who you're meant to be. It's about understanding that you're part of something much larger than yourself, a continuing story of human resilience, love, and evolution. The ancestors are waiting. They've been waiting with infinite patience and infinite love. All you have to do is open your heart, speak their names, and welcome them home. Until next time, beautiful souls, may you walk in wisdom surrounded by love, both seen and unseen. Remember to keep listening for the whispers.